Hello and welcome to this video. My name's David Thorne. Now this is a UIKit video specifically about UITableView. Now I know that we're making SwiftUI videos and Swift videos, but at one point you are definitely going to come across the usage of a UITableView, and you're going to have to update it. You're going to have to be able to manage it. You're going to have to be able to understand how to use it, because there are going to be so many applications still required to be updated to SwiftUI. And that process could take a couple of years. So it's really it's imperative that you understand how a table view or UI table view works, all right? Because you're not going to be able to go anywhere without not being able to use this. And anyone is going to test you how to do this, all right? So with that said, let's walk through the basics of using a table view now. And as you know me, it's not going to be basic. I'm going to go in detail. So sit back, get a coffee, right? And I'm going to go through this in full detail. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to go through it in full detail, all right? And I'm going to try and get out all of the knowledge that I've got in my head and give it to you. So editing David here, I do go through this in full detail, but there's a couple of points where you know, it can be stressful. It can be put me under pressure when making these videos, and I make small mistakes. And so I've tried to edit out these as much as possible, but keeping it transparent where I've made these mistakes. So I've sped up a few areas, and I've done a few voiceovers and so on. But there's a couple of bits where I've literally just taken it out completely. And you might notice a little bit if you listen to the editing, but I did make a couple of mistakes, but all of the content in this is correct, and I've explained it correctly as well when I did make the mistakes. So with that said, let's just keep going. It's still a good video. It's 39 minutes long without this additional extra, so it should be like 40 minutes long in total. But anyway, enjoy. And there's a lot more other tricks and tips that I could do. I might make a secondary video for that. But in this video, we're just going to go through it in a normal manner. So we're doing a storyboard thing, Swift or UIKit, and we're just going to call it DTTableView. And I've created this big project, lots of projects about how to do this. So it's a big topic, right? So the first thing we're going to do in UIKit is we are just going to create a table view at the top, and I can spell it correctly. And we're going to say UITableView here, and just do init, right? And then the initial stuff, we're going to say view, add subview, table view, and then we're going to say table view translates, auto resides in blah 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 here, and then we're going to do the obligatory layouts. UI layouts constraints. Well, I've got NS layout constraints activate, and then we're just going to quickly do this. I'm going to speed it up. Okay, so there we go. We've now said table view, top anchor, bottom anchor, trailing anchor, leading anchor, and we're going to constrain that to the actual views, top, bottom, trailing, and leading anchor. So they're going to sit nicely, and it's going to be pinned to all sides basically. So now that's out the way, we want to be able to say that this UI view controller is going to be the table views delegate, and we're going to do self, and we're going to do table delegate data source. And this is kind of like how I do all of my, if I ever use table view, this is like the code that you just write in one go, all right? Just get used to it. And if you want to put it up like this is probably better, and so on. And then you come down here and do this and let all of these errors come, right? This is what I do, and I don't add the delegate or the data source to this one UI view controller here. I always do an extension. Yeah, I just in the end, I just think it's nicer to be able to find the methods. Yeah, I just think it's nicer to be able to find the methods, and it's a little bit more organized. That's all. That's all it is. It's all about being organized. Now, the one method that we're going to have to, or the two, sorry, we're going to have to implement is the self row, and let's just return. I'm going to go through all of this, all right? Don't worry about it, but let's just get rid of all of these default things that we have to do. And this is going to be items count. So we haven't got items right now, so we can return that, and we can get rid of this for the time being. We don't have items, but like I said, we're going to create this. So what's this delegate is all about for displaying, for interactions, and so on. Sorry, it's not about displaying. This is all about interactions and events, and before it will display, after it's been removed, and so on. But data source is all about actually creating that one view. All right. So we're going to need this items array with inside of here, and for the time being in this demonstration, we're just going to do a string. And we'll just say here 1 up to, let's say, 100, and then we'll just map it to a here, and we'll just say $0. So, okay, this is now our data source here. So we're now, the whole point of this is when the table view displays, it wants to know how many rows that it's going to display, all right? And it's going to call this method first of all. And so it's going to say, hey, how many rows do you want to display? And here you're going to say, I'm going to display, in theory, this amount here, all right? And so let's just say 100 here. And so it knows, okay, I now have to display 100. But it's all about the size of the screen. Table view is all about reusability, right? It means it will only make the correct, it will make the minimum amount of views to display, and the rest it will just keep reusing and reusing the same cells all the time. And so in theory, it overlaps the view size, so it's always got cells showing, right? And when it doesn't need that one cell, it takes it off, and it takes another one off a list and reuses that one again, and reuses it, dequeues. So when it's finished with a cell and there's no other item here that needs it, it places it on a queue, right? And then when it's ready to reuse it again, it reuses it, or it prepares it first of all, and then it dequeues it from that. Or sorry, it dequeues it first of all, then it then says, hey, prepare for reuse, and then it comes to this cell here, right? This method here, to be able to configure how it should look, and then it then is displayed, all right? And you can also carry out some other method in here before and after as well, if you want to tweak it. So let's just go through how this works. So first of all, we're going to have items.count, all right? And then what our job now is in for this self array index path. This index path has two properties, all right? And I'm just going to just explain it like this, it's far easier. The index path has two properties, row, right, and index path section, okay? And so basically the sections by default, it's only going to display one section, all right? And that section can have many rows, and it's a multi-dimensional it's a two-dimensional array basically that's going to have that you're going to always use then the section index first of all, and then use the actual row index. But if you only say you can also say here number of sections in the table view. This is where you would say, like say 3 or 4 or 5. So here you would have to use the section to know which section you are in for then the index path. But if you're not going to have any sections, then it just defaults to the row instead. So with that said, we need to return a view, all right? And in the beginning, we're just going to say cell here and UITableView cell, all right? And we're just going to generate one here. And we're going to say text label, text. They all have a text label by default added to it. And now we're going to say items, and we're going to trust in the fact that this is existing, because that's the whole point of the cell. That's the whole point of this, is that we know that this maps to the items here. You can't always trust it, but you should do, all right? And there's no point doing lots of checks, because this is going to be called loads and loads of times. We don't want it on my iPhone, we want it on the iPhone 15 here. And when we run this, you should see, well, there we go. All right, it was just taking a little bit of time in the beginning to come, and now you can see that we get a whole bunch of cells, right? This doesn't mean that there's 100 cells being created. This is not what happens, okay? What happens is that there's only, like I said, this amount, let's say maybe 20, maybe 22 cells in total that are being created, and they are being shared upon this. So there's really like maybe 22, 23 cells maximum, and the bulk of the cells are obviously between, say, like 60 and 75 being displayed, and then 59 and 76, they are going to get, or say 58 and so on, they're going to get methods called on them to say, hey, they're going to be displayed or they're going to be removed, and then just before they're going to be displayed, they're going to have a method called on it. So with that said, let's create a custom cell, and to show you what's going to happen here, and we'll use this here, and we'll say my custom cell as well. So custom table view cell. We're not going to create a zip file because we don't want to, and we'll just pop it in there. Now we have this cell. So this awake from nib is if you are going to use storyboards, this is basically loading the data from the storyboard, and it'll call this. We don't care about that. And set selected, this is going to be called, if you have basically tapped on a cell, it's going to call this here, all right? And it's going to say set highlighted before it's going to do this as well. So you could say set highlighted method as well. This is going to be called first. This is going to be called again. Do not set selected to true or false in here. Otherwise, it's going to be like an infinite loop, and you're going to get called and called and called all over again. All right. So these are two methods that you can use by setting selected. You are visually if you're going to in here, this is where you could change the background color. So the content view background color to say red and so on, and you could say then the text label text color is equal to blue. This is what you could do based upon, if like selected, you could do here, and if not, then you might want to do, I don't know, like black and then orange or something. I don't care. So this is what you were doing here, and it's always important to call the super set selected as well, with selected and animated here. All right, so this is how, when the user has tapped one of these buttons, you can change the color, and you can see by default it is doing it because this set selected. So let's get rid of this, and the most important one that you need to understand is when it's going to be called is this prepare for use. So just remember that in the beginning, this cell is going to be used as the first time when it is created, just like we have done here. All right, if we then turn around and say custom table view cell here instead, and we run this once again, this custom table view cell is going to be used instead, right? And if we come in here and we then say here reusing, and we run it again, you'll see how many times reusing gets displayed. Right now, none, because everything is being used for the first time. This is where we are being inefficient right now, okay, because we need to dequeue these cells. And now, in order for the table view to know that this cell exists, this is the inefficient way of doing it, right? And to be able to start using this reusability, we have to come down here and say the table view, and we're going to register our cell, all right, for a cell reuse identifier. And we can say custom table view cell, and then just self to say the type of it. And all I'm going to do is here, in all fairness, is just do describing and then custom table view cell. And here it's way easier to do it this way, in my opinion. So now here we can do a guard statement here, and rather than generating the cell, let's let UIKit and the table view create this cell for us itself. And here we can say table view dequeue reusable cell with identifier for, and because we could just use it for all cells, but we could change it relative to an index path. All right, and here we're just going to say here describing once again, and and custom table view cell here, and then we're just going to put index path in here. And if this doesn't work, then we'll just return a UITableView cell like that. All right, and we need to obviously say as custom table view cell, and that needs to be optional as well. And so now we have our cell, right? And when we run this once again, you'll see now that we get reusing all the time, right? And if we just update this cell to be, say, like the tag, you can update, let's say, the tag to the index path here. And let's come back to our cell and say reusing here instead the tag. And when we run it again, you'll see lots of numbers come out. It's going to be 0 in the beginning, a lot. Okay, there we go. So you can see the different cells being reused all the time. All right. And so this is one of the first methods that's being called. So if you do have the text label in here, we can just say then basically just to clean up. There's a few default views that we have. Is the text label text, so you can just put this to nil. There's the detail text label text. You can put this to nil as well. There's also the image view image. You can put to nil. These are all things that if you've just using a custom table view cell and you haven't added any custom subviews and so on, then this is how you could reset it, and you could reset the background color and so on. So I don't know, like content view background color is then clear and stuff, and all views go within inside of this content view. All right, so although this is a table view cell, all of your subviews go within inside of this wrapper view, this content view. Okay, so if you are going to add any subviews, you should add it to this content subview here. All right, so with that said, that's all perfectly fine. Now I want to show you then the initializer, which you've got here. Let's just say style, and here if you wanted to add let's call it my cell here, you could do, but once you do this, you've got to actually implement the other NS Coder one, which we don't care about because we're not using any storyboards and so on. We're just using code. So now we could just use this reuse identifier here instead, rather than using this here. And we could just do this and run it again, and you'll notice that we get oh yeah, because we registered a different cell. You see, so if you're going to do it like this, you have to make sure you come to here and then register the name correctly, like this, and it works again. All right, so we're all happy. We're working once again. So this is now called as the actual displaying one, right? But we got here, we can say will display. So this is the UITableView delegate. We can now say will display, and this now allows you to configure how the view is going to be just prior to that the view coming on. So this is going to be, it's off screen right now, but the second it hits like 0 pixels close to the edge, this is going to be called this will display. And then once it comes on, this is what's going to be called here. All right, so it's dequeued it, and then it's going to start, then just before it's about to display, it's going to say, hey, you've got a last chance now to configure how you want it to display, and this is where you can configure it here. Now there's also a did end display, and this is then the reverse. So when it is just about to then be taken off and queued again for later use, this one is going to be, so you can do any cleaning up or anything like this. So this is where you can this is then all for displaying, prior to displaying and ending displaying. And remember that the internal one is then prepare for reuse, and this is the one that's really going to be called when it comes off that one list of spare cells. It's going to call this first. It might call it actually before it puts it on the list as well, but this one is definitely going to be called before it does anything with this one cell. All right. So this is one to remember. Now we can also control when it's selected, and we can say here did select row at index path, right? So here we can turn around and say did select, and then just say index path row. So I'll make a mistake here by adding the tableview.dequeue reusable cell. The dequeue reusable cell is going to generate a brand new cell, all right, or it's going to take one off that's already been used. And what we need to do actually here is get the actual cell that's being displayed, and that is another method on the table view that we have. And I'll notice the mistake I made in a second. But so I'm just going to quickly skip through forward to quickly where I actually find the mistake. This is another method that we need to talk to. Sorry, I made a mistake there. We need to say here cell for row at index path. All right, and this is why it's doing that, because we need to use a different thing. When you say DQ reusable cell, this is basically saying to create a new cell or take the next one off the list that is reusable. All right, but once we've got did select, we know that this cell has been displayed. So we know it's past, it's within inside of this will display, and it is within inside of this did end display. All right, so we know that that cell is an active cell. So we want to come through the list of active cells and say cell for row at index path here. And now when we run this, we know that we're going to get the text that's displayed because this is an active cell. You see here? And we get optional here. And we actually get the value. So this is something to understand, that with inside of did select, you are talking to an active cell. Right, and will display and end display in cell they're not active cells yet, they're just ready to go. All right, and this is then ready to be put back on the list. So this is the last chance prior to the reuse cell. So if we now just come to the cell and we don't set this to nil, right? We don't set this to nil here, and we change that back, right? Just out of interest, just to change it back to see what text we get in here instead, right? And we do this again. We might get the chance to see some text, but obviously they're all okay. So it's not working as I thought, but yeah, very good. We're not getting a reused cell, all right, because oh, there we go, there we got one. All right, see how we got one there, see, there we go, getting another one there. All right, so it does work, you know. It's just not every now and again it gives you a cell, but you're seeing sometimes you're getting nil. I think it's just that more often that we do this now, the more often we're getting pre-used cells. So you can see that you don't always get a reused cell when you say DQ for here. Otherwise, if you, like I said before, if you want to have the actual cell that you are that has been selected, then you use cell for row at index path instead, and this will then give you every single time when you tap it, it will give you the exact value that's actually there. And naturally you can change the value to say text label text, and just say selected, then say the cell tag instead. All right, now we can come to here, and we know that if we come to 36, right, well, it got to 35, sorry. Okay, well, the tag was we want to really say +1, all right, because we started from 1 here. Yeah, and we just come back to 36 again. Let's just do it again, and now we get selected 36. But let's scroll it off and scroll it back down again. You see you get cell 36, so we say selected 36, boom, back off again. So this is where we could then say did end displaying, right? So we come here once again. Oh, but we've got the cell this time, but we still need to, if custom cell, whoops, equals cell as custom table view cell here. Now we need to convert it, right? But we know that we've got the text label on all of them anyway, so it's fine. But we can now say items right here, and index path, whoops, index path row is equal to custom cell text label text, and we're gonna do this because we know it's there, right? We know that's there as well. We're going to change the text so it's there for the future too. All right, and we run it again. So we'll tap 7. Right, we get selected 7. We put selected 7 out, and boom, we're still there. See, we've still got the selected text. We go to 14. And whoops, oh, that wasn't good. And we still get 14 and selected 7. See, so this is the way that we can keep the state of the cell by updating these items in the event that something happens. So you've got the way of manipulating it as well, right? So if we come back to here again, and we can turn around, and just to show you that we can do this, and we can say new here instead. And now every single time when we come on the view cell 8, when we go out and come back in, we should have come out, come back in, will display. So this is now my next mistake, is we are updating the items, right, in the will display, but when did end displaying here, we are updating it back to the custom cell.text label.text here. So we aren't actually updating the text label value there. So it means that when we come to did end displaying cell, we are using the initial value again. So at 39, line 39, we need to actually update the cell's label for it to be used in future things. So I'm going to skip forward to where I work this out again. Okay, this is now clear, right? Because we are updating the data source here, okay, which is good. We're updating that. We can see that it's up here. But when we are ending displaying it, we are setting it back again to the text cell because we haven't updated the cell, right? So the custom cell text label text is equal to this once again, right? We need to update this because this is where it's going to get reset, all right? This is where it's actually going to reset it again, all right? So let's just run this again, and now we should see this working. And so we are going to move cells out and bring them in, bring them out, bring them in, bring them out, bring them in. You can see every single time we bring them out, we bring them in, we get updated values. Okay, so now you can see will display and did end it. This is for real life example is completely useless, but it's showing you now how we can access the different data, we can update the data, and that we can save state between moving. All right, so you always know where the cell is going to be and what it's doing based upon this. All right, so if you want to add some form of like state here to say I've been displayed, I'm being requeued, I'm being initialized, I'm active, I'm whatever, you can always set it with inside this cell to know at any one point what is going on. All right, but I mean, it's completely redundant to do basically. But this is more will display and did end displaying is more about first did end displaying is to do any updating of your state internally when that view has been removed, right? And will display once again is to do any final touches to that cell that might be required before it actually gets displayed. Okay, and did to select and so on is then to be notified when it is selected. Let's just remove this did select table view here. Now what we can do, right, is when we get the cell, all right, we can say cell here and then add gesture recognize, right? And we're just going to say we're going to add a tap, and we add a tap here and say add tap gesture recognizer, and then tap add target, and we're going to say self, and we're going to say cell tapped here. And now let's come down the bottom and we'll just say objective C function cell tapped, and we know that this is a tap gesture recognizer, so it's a tap here and UI tap gesture recognizer here, and then we can say then the actual view and guard cell equals view as the custom table view cell, and if not we'll just return here anyway. So now we have the actual tap, and here we can now say text label text, and we'll say tapped, and we'll say cell tag here. All right, and we need to make that optional once again, and we run this once again, and you'll now see that we can have this tapped, right? And when we run it away, it still has the tapped functionality because we told it to save the state here. So if we run it again, we know that we don't have any state being updated once again. Come on, run it again. And when we say 7 cell tapped, we run it out and come back, it's still 7 again. All right, so it just goes to show you that you don't actually have to use did selected if you want to use some external delegate or something like that. And so let's just go ahead and create a table delegate here. And this is going to have to be NS object as well. And in here, we just can extract this to it instead. So we don't have to spend time making it. And we know this here. And now we can make a delegate here and say table delegate. And let's just instantiate that. And inside of this, we can say, so delegates here. And now we actually have to say table delegate to know which one it's actually going to do. And when we come to run it, we can see now that we get this method is called, and we can still update it here. So you could pass this table delegate on to other things, and you could handle that tap gesture, that interaction somewhere else. You don't actually have to handle it with inside of the table view delegate. However, if we do then implement this did select row at index path, and we rerun it again, you'll notice that we still get this, right? So tapped, let's just put it in here, all right, and we run it again. You'll see we still get the cell, right? This is taken precedence over this instead. All right, let's just put a breakpoint here just to show you this will always, because I'm guessing somewhere in the background within table view they are adding a tap gesture recognizer to that one cell when they're adding one, but because we are adding this target, we are basically overriding that instead. So if we now remove this cell gesture recognizer instead, and we run it again, you'll see we get tapped. And I'm assuming we could also test this, right? If we come down, if we come down here once again, and we uncomment this, and we say if cell tap cell content view maybe gesture recognizers counts, or sorry, is empty. Okay, then we'll just say, we can say gestures equal here, just to have a look. And did I miss that on here? Gesture recognizers. Okay, if it does have tap gesture recognizers, we're going to say has recognizers, else we come to here instead. So let's have a look at what it says. And as we can see, it has no gesture recognizers, right? Let's now have a look at the content view gesture recognizers instead. And so we can see that it does have gesture recognizers here, which are going to be the reason why it's got this, right? So let's now remove the did select row at index path method and see whether that's got, and you can see now it still does have recognizers, right? So by us adding, I'm guessing that we are just overriding this one gesture recognizer, and it's just using the default. So let's have a look at how many gesture recognizers it has, and we can go from there. And it has one. So all we're doing is basically they're obviously using the last one on the list for the gesture recognizer. All right. With that said, I think we have covered nearly everything. I mean, there's a few more things that we could talk about, but we've talked about the prepare for reuse and so on. We've talked about adding the reuse identifier. We've talked about the data source and the delegate. Let's just have a quick pop in the delegate here. You can see number of rows of index path, and then you've also got title for header, so you can add the title. If you've done Swift UI, you'd have noticed that there's a header and there's a title and so on that you can do with it. And then there's all the editing, the moving and stuff. But this is extra stuff. So I would advise you to take a look at these. And the most important thing is these are just optional, right? You don't have to implement these at all. The only one that you have to implement is the self-row index path and also the number of rows in the section. All right. So get to know these ones here. Now, tables to reload, this is where the difficulty comes. So you've got a method here that says reload data, and you've got to stay, your items need to stay in sync with the information within inside of the table, all right? And the problems that you are going to have, so index paths, index paths for selected rows, for index path for visible rows, and so on. This is always a good thing to be able to look at when you're adding and removing data. You really need to be careful, because it could be that you have like a new data source, for example, and then you're going to reset these items. But it can be that you don't want to do a full reload data, all right? But you just want to update specific rows. And as you can see here, reload rows at index path with row animations, okay, or reload sections. So it can be that you get new data, and you've got to be very careful about how you update it, because you get lots of flickering on table views all the time if you don't control it properly. So my advice is to really understand when you get new data in, look through the data, try and use the tags and so on with the likes of identifiables. So rather than having a string here, I would have an identifiable, and then you can have in your custom cell some way of saying, hey, what cell do you have? What entity here do you have right now? And is this displaying? And can I reload it? And if you do reload it, then put it in the index path here instead. So use this reload rows at index path instead. But you have to be very, very careful. All right. Just I have to tell you now, just if you're going to use multi-threading with table views, make sure that you do this work on the main thread, and it's the place where you're going to get the most problems. And if you call table view reload too many times, you're going to get efficiency problems. It's a thing. If you can try to not use table views, right, and use Swift UI instead, because list and so on is amazing, right? It's fantastic. But you're going to have to understand how table views work and so on. All right. So I don't know how long this video has been going on for. I think I've managed to cover enough things. There's probably a whole bunch of other stuff that I could cover in this and so on. But I think for the time being, it could be all right. I mean, if you wanted to create other cells, then this is where you would then register your cells as well. And you don't necessarily have to use this one cell. It could be for the second index path or something, or then you want to use another cell and so on. So all you got to do is use your index paths to work out with inside your items. Maybe your items could say what type of cell that you want. You know, you could have maybe like a struct or something, and a cell item here, and then this could have then a type and stuff. This could be then the enum here that could tell you the type of cell that it wants. Like this could be the cell, the cell reuse identifier and so on. And then you've got the actual data here, which could be any, I don't know. And this is in here as the cell items and stuff. And when we create this, we can then just say, what was this called? My cell. And this is then the data and so on. When we come down here, obviously it doesn't have here. We just want data as a string here, and we run this once again, and we should still be okay. You can see we're all still okay, but this time we know that this one this one item is my cell. It could be that there are other ones where you have, like your button cell or your newsfeed cell or your user cell or something like that. This is a way that you could easily with inside of your cell for row index path define which cell you actually want instead. And I promise you can make this as generic as possible, and you can reduce this down really far, and I've taken it all the way down, and maybe I'll show you my libraries in the future, and so on. So with that said, I'm probably going to make more videos. If you want me to go even deeper into this and make longer videos about table views, just let me know in the comment section below and I'll do it. I'll just do it. With that said, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all of the other social media things that you could possibly do to this one video. I do these videos for you. I also do them for me because they're quite fun to look at this older legacy stuff. And it's always a good idea to keep your legacy knowledge up to date, all right? But at one point, you could just ignore some things, but table view, collection views, and so on are definitely still things that you need to keep in the foreground. You need to understand them straight away and switch backwards and forwards between the likes of SwiftUI and also UIKit, AppKit, and so on. But that's the whole point of UIView representable, to be able to understand how can I still use old stuff but use it in SwiftUI, and how can I use SwiftUI in UIKit as well, because you want to be flexible to be able to use both stuff. Okay, if you do have any questions, feedback, or concerns, as always, let's start a conversation in the comment section down below. I will respond to every single question, comment, either in a textual form or with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. My name's David Thorne, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.